The biggest lesson from this story is, of course, to subscribe to my channel, as well as like and comment your opinion under the video. Everything helps for the algorithm. Don't forget about Patreon. Backstory. Let me take you back 25 years to when I was a baby and my aunt passed away. My two cousins, who are both in their early 20s, were left to fend for themselves after her untimely death. Fortunately, our wealthy grandparents will contain a thoughtful provision. They decided that the grandchildren would get half of any parent's inheritance if they passed away before their children turned 30. When our grandparents eventually passed away, we would receive the remaining portion. My cousins ended up benefiting greatly from it. They inherited a sizable sum when combined with the cash they received from selling my aunt's home. The younger cousin used her share wisely, paying off college loans and investing in real estate. She continues to reside on the same property today. The elder sibling, however, wasted his inheritance in just 6 years, taking a course straight out of a biblical parable. He had a substance abuse problem, which was unfortunate and made things worse. He ran out of money and was forced to live in a condo while working as a police officer to support himself. Our small family was aware of his struggles, but he persisted in purchasing large quantities of drugs. The Singularity. My cousin attended rehab 3 times over the following 4 years, with the support of our grandparents each time. He always seemed to temporarily improve before reverting to his old behaviors. But when he became pregnant, his girlfriend, who is now his wife, things changed for the better. He had to sober up because he would soon become a father. But his wife turned out to be a dreadful, dreadful person. She decided to baby trap my cousin, believing it would be her ticket to financial security because she saw my grandparents as a payday. They had 3 children in less than 7 years, which firmly bound her to them. She frequently required a small financial boost to support the family because she was a nurse, guess to whom they would always go for assistance. You understand, dear grandparents. They always lent a hand because they had generous and kind hearts. My sister, my mother, my father, and I were all very frustrated by this circumstance. A broken family. Unfortunately, when I was 17 years old, our grandmother passed away, leaving only my grandpa. I had a special relationship with him, and this seemed to really hurt my cousin and his wife. They didn't like the fact that I lived with my grandpa for the final 2 years of my high school career to keep him company and assist with his care. They began pulling small pranks on me to show their displeasure, even going so far as to send their kids to wreak havoc in my room whenever I wasn't home. The double doors in my room prevented it from being locked. The jokes got worse over time and more malicious. Even worse, my cousin put a mechanical noisemaker that made noises at random intervals inside my cabinet, which made me feel insane. Fortunately, after a week or so, my German Shepherd found it. The clear goal of their strategy was to separate me from my grandfather so they could step in and assume the role of caregiver while projecting an image of heroism. I, however, would not give up easily. The shooting incident. When my cousin's wife claimed that one of the kids found my gun, the situation became dangerous. I had a gun at the time, was 18 years old, and always kept the key out of reach in a locked box on my nightstand. Due to his arthritis and nerve damage, my grandfather had given me charge of the household firearms because he could no longer aim and fire them. He strictly enforced the rule that he would only let them out to clean. My cousin's wife, on the other hand, falsely claimed that I kept a loaded gun in the house. My cousin, who also happens to be a police officer, reprimanded me about gun safety and threatened to have me arrested if I didn't leave despite my attempts to explain that I never kept the gun loaded. He explained that the reason he hadn't detained me earlier was because we're family. The repercussions. Sadly, the lies that my cousin and his wife spread damaged my relationship with my grandpa. My grandfather asked me to leave the house while things calmed down. He decided it would be best to avoid any pointless arguments. but he promised me that once things were resolved, I would always be welcome back home. But then something unexpected happened. My cherished grandpa passed away at the age of 86 from a heart attack a month later. We had just started to re-establish our bond and trust, so I was devastated. The retaliation scheme. My cousin and his wife wasted no time after my grandpa passed away in attempting to win my dad over. Given that they had already obtained a share from my grandpa, they thought it would result in greater financial gains. But my cousin's greedy behavior was surprised by my grandparents' will. According to the will, anyone who tried to take more of the inheritance than their allotted share would lose everything they were entitled to. In essence, it was a defense against claims motivated by greed. The perfect setup. Knowing this, I devised a plan of retaliation. I informed my cousin over the phone that Grandma's entire collection of jewelry would be sold at a charity auction. He couldn't help but run to my grandparents' house to grab as much as he could, because the lure was too alluring. The jewelry wasn't really meant for him, but he unwittingly walked right into my trap. He had no idea that my father and the family lawyer were already present and in charge of the formalities. They noticed my cousin had piled 3 shoeboxes worth of jewelry on the kitchen counter when he arrived, with greed in his eyes. The 4th and final shoebox was taken from my grandparents' bedroom before he continued. The crucial moment. When my cousin realized that I had duped him, the game was over. He saw the connection between 2 and 2, but he was powerless to stop it. Due to his own greed, he lost a sizable sum of money in just 30 minutes. The results. My cousin was embarrassed when his wife filed for divorce a few weeks later. He hadn't contacted us in almost 6 years. By his own actions, he had effectively severed ties with our family. Although the outcome of this revenge story could be considered fairy tale-like, I would give anything to have my grandparents back. Although their wealth may have grown over time, nothing could ever fully replace them in our lives. That is the story of how our family dynamics were shaped by greed, lying, and retaliation. Although it wasn't the route I would have taken, life has a way of working itself out. It's not as much of a revenge story as this one, but if you're interested in the other, part of the story involving the significant lawsuit with the ears and FBI, let me know.